Today I speak with Peter Schroeder, the tech entrepreneur who went from spinning records as a top DJ to surviving a plane crash to pioneering the future of unified communications. Listen as he shares his extraordinary journey and invaluable insights on collaboration, tech business fusion, surviving adversity, and the AI revolution. You're going to love the episode. Peter, thanks for being here. As I said, can you tell us all about your journey from being a top DJ from the tech pioneer, and how your early experiences in radio influenced that transition?
Oh man, that's gonna be a long one. Well, I mean, I started out really young. I was doing radio when I was around 10 or 11 years old in Denmark on national radio, and that kind of led to do the same thing on TV. This was like a kids show. I was out, reporting and interviewing other kids.
Cool.
And then eventually my voice changed because you grow up and you can't do kids show anymore. So I founded their website. Had some friends that were really good at drawing and painting and that kind of stuff. So this was back in the 90s. So this was when the internet was just becoming a thing. So I was like, you got to put that online because that's what people do now. So I made this website where we put their stuff up, and other people started submitting the things. And all of a sudden I had like a social media before there was even social media with thousands of users, and it became the biggest community for artists in Scandinavia, and eventually got acquired when I was, I think, around 18 or something like that.
Wow.
When I wanted to start DJing more professionally, at least. But yeah, I started out DJing. I actually remember very vividly when I saw a DJ the first time. I was probably in third grade, 9 years old or something like that. And I saw at a school band, this guy just playing songs and making people happy just by playing good music. I was like, this is awesome. I want to do that. So I got some cassette tape players and started playing at my friends' birthday parties. And that kind of grew over the years to have a little mobile setup and playing at bigger parties and stuff. And eventually I was old enough to get to play at clubs, and I started doing that, and then started also making music.
I think that's awesome. So it's always a progression for almost everyone. I did the same thing. So I play guitar and play piano and different things like that. But I love that you have as many gold records as you have. Can you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Yeah. So a few years after I had started DJing professionally, I met a couple of guys online on like a community for music producers. And we made a band together. So made a couple of songs, and one got signed to a record label. And from there on, we went on tour in Germany for a while. And over the years, of course, released more things. And I saw kind of how all like what the record labels did from the inside. What does it mean to run a record label? What does it mean to release a song? So I was like, I can do that. That's just my ADD brain. Of course I can do that. So I started a record label and started releasing both, in the beginning just to release our own songs, but also started signing other artists, and that kind of grew. Eventually got that one acquired by Sony and got an exit when I kind of burned out, or not burned out. I would say like I got too much on my plate, started burning bridges. It was not great. So I had to kind of like put a pause on this. But yeah, over the years I just released music and produced for a bunch of artists, other people, and really just enjoyed myself with that.
And then you ended up making the transition over into tech. You started crafting cutting edge technologies for industries like Facebook, Samsung, Airbnb. What are key insights that you kind of gained about the intersection of technology and business during that time?
Well, so the thing is, I've never really feel like I've transitioned back and forth, because tech has always been so deep in me. I started coding when I was super young. I was more interested in that than, finding out how does the video game works rather than playing the video game, right? So that's just always been, I've been very curious in that way. So I've always had that side. My mom was an engineer and my dad was a drummer, so it's kind of it's almost in the genes, right?
Right.
So really early on, I started coding, and I had that website when I was in my teenage years, and eventually when I had my label, I also created the software to kind of manage the releases and royalties and all these kind of things, and promotion, and so eventually when I think this was in 2010 or something like that, I burned out by DJing. I had played within 12 months. I played 383 gigs. It's completely outrageous. Yeah, and So I burned out, and I needed some time to kind of make more music. I again, this ADD thing. I can't just sit on a hotel or on a flight or in a hotel room and just produce like a lot of my friends can. I have to have everything neatly set up in my studio, and everything needs to be prepared. So I hadn't made music for a long time. So I just like, okay, I need a break. I told my manager, let's put a pause on the gigging. And during that time, I was playing with a different project, a promotion platform, and I needed a phone system, like a hotline system for that people could call. And there wasn't anything out of the box that I could afford or that had all the features that I wanted. So I was like, okay, I'll make it myself. And I started coding this thing. And I found out that, okay, if I'm going to change it and update it all the time, then I got to make some kind of interface for myself. So I started doing that. And all of a sudden, I spent half a year doing that. And I was really deep into it. I was just excited about it. So I just met my wife at that time, and she was like, well, let's try and put it out online and see if it sticks. And people started signing up. And now it's been 10 years, and I never officially quit music, but it's it just happened to be more interesting. Another butterfly, I saw, and then let's go do that.
Yeah, so that brings us to Telseo. It's your latest venture. So it's positioned as a pre-unicorn unified communications company. What exactly does that mean?
Well, that's a very good marketing term, I think, that our marketing team has probably come up with. So unified communications is really just a platform for businesses, a service, a hosted service for businesses to get their communications services from, rather than like in the old school days where you had to install PBX servers and stuff in your office and have lines pulled in physically. That doesn't exist anymore, really. Now it's all in the cloud. We have a platform where you just go and sign up and then manage everything online, and everything. By everything, I mean, not just phone calls, but texting and all these other things that you need as a business for communications. And we just built, but we built our own platform for that, and kind of just been developing it over the years. Didn't take funding or anything like that. We just took the long route and built a solid product that customers love.
That's great. So is there anything that sets Telseo apart from other unified communication companies? Can you bring your own phone? I know that's a lot of the limitations that I've seen before, where, hey, you can sign up for our UC, but you got to pay for our phones too. And that's really where the corporate expense ends up coming in. Anything like that?
Yeah. Of course, you can bring your own phones, and you can of course also buy them from us. We have auto provisioning so that you can you don't even have to have the phone physically near you to set it up. So if you have remote workers, you can just have them sent right out to them, even from our factory or our warehouse. You can have them sent out to your employees, and they just plug them in. But I think the main thing that really is different, because a lot of the features are the same for all the providers out there, and everyone copies each other. We come up with something new, and 2 years later, everyone has it, right? But I think the main thing that you see with us is really going back to that thing about I needed something that has all the features and worked for me, and that I could afford, because and this is probably my Danish roots or my Danish way of thinking, but I really hate how businesses have these startup, professional, and enterprise plans, right? You have these 3, maybe 4 plans. And then to get the features you really need, you have to buy the enterprise plans that you can't afford. And how does that make sense? Why is it that the enterprises that have already made it and have lots of customers and money, why do they get to get the features that set them apart? Like this should be the other way around, right? Where's the equality on the playing field here? So what we did when we started out and have been doing now for 10 years is we made a very simple billing model that's, instead of being charged for users or with unlimited usage or whatever they say, and you have some users that never use it and pay for them. Instead of doing all that, you just pay for the minutes you make and receive calls, the text you send, and these kind of things. So the usage only, and then you get all the features from day one. So you get the same features as our biggest customers like Samsung and Facebook and those people.
I love that. So I've always despised those good, better, best plans. They're annoying. And just like you said, there's plenty of features that I want that are over here. Even if it's just
Hmm.
one, I think that's the ones that bug me the most, where it's just this one feature that I want, but I don't want to go from the basic plan all the way up to here. It can
Yeah.
get really frustrating.
And the
So
thing
I'd
is,
be,
if you're a business with that takes security, somewhat seriously, you usually have to have SSO. That's a non-negotiable for us. We don't sign up for anything if it doesn't have SSO, and that's always on the enterprise plan.
it is.
It's frustrating.
And it's one of those things that everyone should be concerned with security these days. Like, there's no
Exactly.
reason that security should not be almost every company's one of their number one or number two priorities for every company that's out there. Because there's so many
Exactly.
companies that get cyber hacked, and it just puts them out of business a lot of the time. I think I read some sort of report that 80% of small to medium sized businesses that get hacked are out of business within 6 months.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. That's an insane number. There's
Yeah.
actually more money spent on security in the world than anything else
Right.
overall.
And
Like,
I feel like it should be some kind of law, that these basic things you can do, you should do, like two-factor authentication, SSO for businesses. It should just be a requirement, period.
yeah, just a basic understanding that this is something you have to do.
Yeah.
Now, I will tell you, Peter, if I didn't ask, I would be remiss. You survived a plane crash. Not everybody does that. So first, tell me about it. But, also, what did those experiences do or shape in your approach to entrepreneurship and innovation?
So it was a commuter turboprop going from Copenhagen to Aalborg, where I'm from. I was going up to say hi to my mom. And as they were getting ready to land, we heard on the speakers that we couldn't get the light to light up on with that says that the landing gear is locked in place. So they're okay. We gotta circle around for a little bit and burn some fuel and also prepare on ground and stuff for an emergency landing. So for an hour and a half, we circled around, and then eventually they made the attempt. And you can actually see this on YouTube because the press had time to get out there, and there's actually video of it. So as it lands, the landing gear does collapse on the right side, and then we go down on the wing, and the propeller goes through the fuselage. We spin around on the grass for a little bit, and then you see like the fire trucks coming up and stuff. But luckily, no one really got hurt. I think the lady broke her arm or something, and that was really it. There wasn't any serious damage or casualties. But it was obviously it was a wild experience, but I actually forgot about it. So I think this happened in 2010 while my music career was at the very peak, and there was so much going on. And I was on a plane the same night, going to Germany to play a gig. Yeah, so I think I probably just completely buried. I should probably talk to a professional about that because there's something going on there. But I buried it, and it came out a couple of years ago when I was having dinner with some friends, and we're just talking. And wait a minute, I was on a plane. It came up, and So it's it was a wild experience, but we weren't panicked or anything like that in that time. I actually called my mom and said I was going to be a little late. I didn't tell her why. Because I didn't really think there was a big deal. So the backstory is the same exact model had the same exact issue a week earlier with the same airline, but didn't crash. They landed just fine. So everyone was just like, okay, yeah, that's just the same. There's just a glitch in this model, no problem. So it happened actually one time after that as well, after this crash. God. And then this airline sold all their planes to some country in Africa, and that's just horrible to me. That let's get rid of these planes. Like, wow. But yeah, that's so if you ever fly in a Dash 8, I don't.
Yeah, I don't. Check the landing gear first yourself if you're going to get on. That's for sure. That's terrifying, but it's great that you just handled it like, oh yeah, no big deal. Mom, I'm going to be a little bit late.
Yeah,
but
I was late
get on a plane later that night.
I was like, I think this was in the afternoon. I don't even remember. Maybe in the around noon. And then later that night, I had a gig in Germany, so I had to get down there and take a flight at I think 9 or 10 p.m. So I think it's very much me though. I'm very like my wife would say stubborn. I'm one of these guys, that if you knock me over, I'm just gonna flip up and like boing 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 back and forth, and and then move on. I've never had, this very easy approach to anything. I've always had to fight for it. So I'm just used to these things that just like kind of happen along the way, and it's just another one of those downs on the roller coaster, right?
Yeah, that's the great way of looking at it. I was going back and I was looking through some of your career, and it seems like collaboration is a reoccurring theme. So you've worked with industry giants and starting your own ventures. How do you approach collaboration? Do you have a belief or an essential guideline or ingredients that you think are successful partnerships in business and technology that comes out of having that type of relationship?
Yeah, I think if we look at our company internally, we are a very, very small team compared to our competitors with the same amount of customers. If you average that out, we're probably 10% of them. And that really comes down to, I think the main thing is really I don't like managing. I'm a terrible manager. I'm bad at following up. So I need people around me, and that's also an ADD thing. I need people around me that are really, really good at what they do, and other things that or basically good at the things that I'm not interested in doing. And because those things just don't get done with me. I'm really good at certain things, and I can get to the bottom of the rabbit hole and start digging for more in the things that I'm interested in. But the things I'm not interested in don't get done. So I've really spent a lot of time finding those right people and making sure that they stay on by giving them above average pay or above market really, and then have these people that I really, really respect myself in what they do. Because when you have those people around you, then collaboration is not an issue. If there's people that you respect for their traits and what they do, then it happens automatically. It's you just work together really, really well, and this thing just magically appears. That and to be honest, we started out never wanting to do remote work because we're a small company. We like being around each other, and we know you do get some you feed each other's energy, essentially feed off of each other's energy for when you're in the same room. But during COVID, we obviously had to change that, and now we're only 4 people left at our headquarters, and everyone else is scattered all over the world now. And we had to learn how do we work as a team and collaborate in these things. And I think the main thing is really comes down to bad, inappropriate jokes. if you have a team that are comfortable, if you have people that are comfortable writing and posting like bad memes and these kind of little inappropriate things on Slack or whatever system you use, if you have people that are comfortable doing that, then it just loosens the whole mood in your team, and collaboration just happens way more smoothly. And I've seen that, and I've really taken it as a almost like an indicator when we hire new people. How fast are they to start posting inappropriate things on Slack? And the faster and the sooner they do that, the better.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, first of all, it's a common thread that great leaders always surround themselves with people who fit their puzzle, right? So not every great leader is going to have every right piece. You have to find those other pieces that complement you around the way. And I love that idea of just a silly meme or something that, because it lowers the barrier. It lowers that barrier that we all put up where we feel like we have to be proper. We have to sit in our desk a certain way. And by lowering that, they're more likely to just throw out a common idea that might result in something that's utilized down the line or fix a problem that someone might be too shy to say what they're actually looking or thinking at the time.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I know, we've talked unified communications, and that revolutionized the workplace. It revolutionized businesses. So I always like to ask everyone that comes on the show, what technology do you think is going to transform the way that business operates in the coming years? Do you have anything in your head that you think is going to be such a big impact that's going to change everything across the board?
Well, that's almost too easy, right? AI obviously is a game changer, but if we were to take that away, there are other things happening right now that I think is really important in our space. So we have this whole change in consumer patterns or requirements. Really, we've seen that with. It started out with food, that you wanted to have food delivered from your best restaurants anytime you want it, and on your premise. Then it moved over to majorly during COVID, like to groceries and those kind of things. And what we're seeing right now is communications is really something that people require to have on their turf. So it the days where you could just post a phone number or an email address and a physical address on your website, and this was how you could communicate with this company, those are over. You have to, as a business, you have to be able to communicate with your customers wherever they want to communicate with you, whether that being direct message on Instagram or WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or email or, so on and so on and so on. So we are working really hard on making that easier for businesses, because it's hard to have, be present in all these different places at the same time. So for you as a business, you really don't have to worry much about how people are contacting you or communicating with you. You just have to provide a good service and an answer back and do what you're doing in your business and be good at that. So we're trying to make that, more simple for people. And I have a good example of how important this is, because I was buying a new car a year and a half ago or so, and I had just test driven this one, and I was this is the one I want. So I'm just gonna go home and think about it tonight, and then I'm probably gonna go down and buy it tomorrow. So I got the dealer's business card and said, I'll be back. Later that day, I sent him an email asking what would the price be if I got the model with the bigger engine. Just same car, bigger engine. And I didn't hear anything. So the next day I went down to a competing dealership with a different brand, but basically the exactly same car, different brand. And I bought a car there that same day because they had the one I wanted and the bigger engine and all that. And then a month later, 3 weeks later, I got an email back from him saying, "Oh, sorry, I missed your email. Do you still need that quote?" Like, no, I bought a different car. So the thing is, I had his business card, I had his phone number, I had everything. I could have contacted him. I could just have called him. But that's not what I felt like doing in that particular moment. I felt like just shooting him an email. I was probably busy holding a kid and something like that, So I sent him an email. And I expected a reply back. Now, if he had some kind of AI thing, that would have been a very, very easy thing to reply. It's a very tangible question. Or if he just had a system that makes sure that he sees the emails and whatever communications people are reaching out with him through, he would have sold the car. He would have not missed out on this one big sale. So that is how important it is. It's not up to you as a business to dictate how your customers are going to contact you. And if you don't realize that, and if you don't follow those, like their premises, then they're just going to go elsewhere. You can't dictate where they go.
Yeah, that's 100% true. And I wonder if at some point we're going to see some sort of unified communication system that would incorporate all of the different social media platforms as well to make it easier, right? So not only will you get your phone, your text, your email, but you'll also get your LinkedIn, your Instagram, X or Twitter or whatever we're calling it this week, notifications all in one for that exact same reason. I find it hard to believe that a sales guy can't pick up an email. Yeah. I just feel like somebody either went on vacation or they just don't do their job very well.
Right.
But just like you said, we are in a world of instant gratification right now. I did the same thing. So I bought a car not too long ago. Same thing happened to me. And I literally got off the email, sent it off. 24 hours later, another guy hit me up. He had an inbound phone call to me. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'll come look at it. Oh, it's the one I want. Yeah, I'll just buy it. I'm not going to waste my time going back. As much as I believe in that sort of patronage for someone who's done a hard job or a hard time work or hard day's work. But if you can't answer an email, what else can't I expect from you later on? Right. So no, I'm going to go with the guy who's going to actually give me the answer that I need right now because it's what I want to do. That we are in a world of consumerism.
Yeah,
do you think
really?
that this world that we've seen, since the COVID pandemic, and we started to see the move to home, right? Obviously, we did remote work for a while, and we're starting to see these companies fight back against it, right? If you don't come back to the office, you're fired. If you don't move within this much organization, you're fired.
Right.
Where do you think that line's going to get drawn in the sand? Do you think it's going to be the employees who are going to say, no, we're not going to take it, we're going to go elsewhere? Or do you think that they'll slowly start marching back into the anthill like good little ants?
Well, it's hard to say because there are obviously two sides that are battling, and they have really, really good, compelling arguments, both of them. Because obviously the businesses can't do without workers, and on the other hand, the workers can't do without jobs, or you know. So it's just a question of who holds out the longest and who fights the most. And I'm willing to say that it's probably the workers, because it's Gen Z is the new kids that are coming around, and they have more energy to take this fight, and they're willing to take that fight, right? So I would actually say that you probably see them win in the end, and or get things pushed over. But the thing is, you know, everything is always changing, and there's always something new happening. You can't expect it, especially as we grow older and you start thinking, well, they hear terrible music. You know, like that's a good indicator. When you think the young kids' music is bad, then, you know, you've gotten old. And there's always, you know, this thing, you look down on the younger generation. It's always been like that, and it's supposed to be like that. You know, otherwise we just at a standstill. And I think actually our generation with the millennials and you know, we've probably been the worst generation at not, you know, doing anything. We haven't had any wars close to us. We haven't had any hardship really. So we've really been spoiled compared to all other generations in history. And I think, you know, Gen Z is the same. And I think what you really start seeing now is this. They're trying to invent their own rebel, or you know, their own issues that they're you know, because people have to have something to protest against.
That's true.
So I don't know what's gonna happen. It's always fun to watch.
I always feel like millennials were that in-between generation, right? Because they were the ones that did see the world before the internet became prevalent. So they saw what it used to be, but then they saw what it could be, and they're like, no, I'd rather chat on AOL. Thank you very much. It's a lot better than playing outside. And then meanwhile, all the newer generations since then, Gen Z, like, this is just the way of life. This is what our expectation is. So that's what their base level is. Whereas millennials had the, okay, our parents tell us to go outside until it's dark outside, and we don't have anything other than a ball to go figure that out with. Then we slowly started to get the internet. Gen Z is, we had the internet from day one. We had apps from day one. What are you guys talking about? What do you mean you went outside? That doesn't mean anything. I don't want to go outside.
You know what? It's really interesting to me, this thing about the apps, and we have the generations that have had that since day one, because I'm a little worried that we have some generations coming now that have been used to everything just working out of the box. You know, you have an iPad, and when you press it, an app opens and it just works, right? There's no like figuring it out and writing, you know, typing. Like when I was a kid, we had to type in our video games. It came in a book. We literally had to type the code out. You know, and so we learned that there are things going on behind the scenes, and got naturally curious about it. And I'm a little worried about there might be some generations that don't get that are not forced to. There's always going to be kids like me, for example, that just can't help it. But you don't have, you know, that almost
Curiosity.
Force. Yeah, that you know, at least in the beginning, spikes that interest and you know, shows them that this is what you could be doing. So I think there might be a vacuum eventually, but on the other hand, we have AI now, and that's probably going to take care of most of it anyway. So who cares?
Exactly. I think that's the same thing that Gen Z is looking at, like the millennials. Like, why did y'all even waste your time doing that? So I think after Gen Z is going to be our AI generation. We're like, no, why would I do that? I just ask AI. It tells me what to do. It makes my food for me. I don't need to be a chef. I don't need to learn how to build a house. It'll just do it for me. So that's the point where I'm wondering where if this remote work even changes even further, right? Because we get to the point now where AI is doing so many things in our lives that humans may not have to work a 40-hour work week anymore, realistically. Right. The day-to-day human. And then you just got to figure out how we make that work. We've got to be able to supply you enough food and a roof over your head, but you've got to contribute to a business for it to pay you. But if AI takes out 90% of those jobs because it can automate all of them, what's left? I don't know. It's a little worry of a.
Yeah, there's definitely a discussion to be had there, because you know, something needs to be done eventually. Because, you know, it is going to happen. There's just no doubt about it. It's just a matter of, does it happen within the next 5 years or the next 15 years? Right. But at some point, it's going to be that a lot of people are not going to be working or have jobs. There's just not going to be any jobs, right? No need for it. And right now, in the beginning, you can transform and you can keep up, and you know, it's like the saddle makers that were making saddles, and we were always going to have a need for saddles. But then someone invented the car, and the ones that kept making saddles were out of jobs, and they were just stubborn, you know. And The other ones that, adapted and started making upholstery, they had a great business and a great future. And I think we'll see that in the beginning. So, you can't uninvent this thing. It is what it is, and you have to deal with it. So if you get on board now and understand how to use it to your advantage, no matter what industry you're in, then you can at least sustain for a while. But
Right.
I think that is just a matter of time before most jobs are going to be obsolete.
I agree. I feel it's definitely Pandora's box. There's no
Mm-hmm.
way to put this thing back in the box, but I think you got the right mindset. It's how do you harness it? How do you partner with it? How do you utilize this, especially in these first 1 to 5 years, where
Yeah.
this short term, where everyone's still learning. I don't know if teaching someone how to utilize AI has any sort of long-standing arc to it, because it's going to change so quickly that anything that you teach may be obsolete in the next 6 to 12 months anyway.
Yeah. You know what? That's the interesting. I read the other day a university professor or maybe leader or something like that in Denmark. He had a really good point. You can't uninvent this thing. So why shouldn't your students in universities and in high schools and so on? Why shouldn't they be allowed to use AI? Like it's not like you can tell China, for example, that they're not going to do it. So if
Right.
you don't allow them to use whatever is available now, then for once you're gonna get a bunch of kids that come out of school and start working and have no idea, how to contribute, because the reality is that everyone is using it now, and they haven't even been schooled in it, trained in it. So that's the one thing. But also your country's gonna fall behind, because other people, you can bet that they're gonna be doing it. Same thing with business. If you're not doing it in your business, you can be 100% sure that your competitors are. So they're gonna have an advantage over you. It's one of those things you can't uninvent it. So now you have to deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I'm just wondering how long it is until we
Mhm.
just have an AI infused robot that's now a teacher at a school.
Yeah.
If you want to utilize it, harness it that way, right? Have a way to where it can give you a distinct lesson. And unfortunately, that then eliminates a teacher from that role. I just
Yeah.
rode in an autonomous vehicle out in Scottsdale, Arizona last weekend, and it was a smooth ride. It was great. I don't see the point of having an Uber driver anymore, to be honest with you,
Right.
Peter. The
Yeah.
next one that I took told me when she was taking me to the airport, this is only my second time going to the airport and I've missed the exit twice now. I'm like,
Oh Lord.
okay,
Yeah.
send me the autonomous vehicle because
Yeah.
it's safer and it makes more sense. We
Yeah.
just have to figure out a way to make society be able to survive it, is the scary part of it. And I
Yeah.
just don't know what that answer looks like, but someone's
And
going to have to come along and figure it out.
exactly. And there is an issue as long as the system is rigged the way it is, where a very few people make a lot of money. That's going to become an issue.
Yeah.
If I think we need to start there and try and somehow even that out. I'm not saying, I'm not going all full communism here, but something needs to be done to kind of smooth that gap out a little bit. And then once we have that going, then we can start talking about some kind of wave where everyone can sustain without having to necessarily contribute 40 hours a week, at least in the beginning.
That would be my thought process too. I mean, I'm not trying to say we're creating some sort of magical socialist society here, but
Right.
at the same time, if we can provide people food and housing, at the same time, you can then say, okay, hey, you work 3 days a week at this factory, or you do
Yeah.
3 days a week over here, and this is just what you're required to by the state, country, world, however we decide to figure that out at the time. Because I just don't see there's going to be enough jobs, like you were saying.
Right.
I don't know if
Right.
it's 5 years. I don't know if it's 15. It could be 30. It could be our kids.
It's
I
very
don't know.
difficult to put a number on, because, I mean, think about it. The internet has been around for 30 years.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah. And
Uh,
we've seen that type of exponential growth just from that,
Exactly.
where it went from you had to know exactly what the web page was that you were trying to get into. So then having Google, who now has all of your information, can remember anything about you, listens to what you're saying, listens to what songs you're doing, knows that you want that Ryobi vacuum for some
Yeah.
reason because you mentioned it on a conversation.
Yeah.
And now we're at this age where AI is going to predict what we want before we realize that we want it. Which one's going to be quicker? I'm going to bet it's going to be AI.
Well, the AI thing we are already building into our product, where we're working on a new feature where we predict which customers of yours you need to reach out to before you even know it, based on the different patterns, right, of that user or customer and within your business. So those things are coming. That's just a matter of months, I would almost say.
That's so crazy. So one final question for you. Um, Being an entrepreneur, what advice would you give for those that are trying to break into the tech industry, especially those that are coming from non-traditional backgrounds like music or art like you did?
Mm. I would actually say be a little bit naive and stubborn. That is what has worked for me really well. So with naive, I mean, well, so Pippi Longstockings, he has this quote. I've never done that before, so I'm sure I'll be good at it. Right? It's this approach to things. And if you think about starting a phone company, trying to compete with AT&T, for example, and you don't have any funding, you're going to cash in your wife's 401k to do it, and that's it. That's not, very rationally logical thing to do. But I knew I had a product that worked, and I didn't try to compete against AT&T and those guys. I just tried to carve out a little bit of market over here, and have a product that works for a few people rather than try to have this big thing that works for everyone in the beginning and then grow from there. And of course, I try to raise money and all that stuff because that's what you're told you're supposed to do as a business. Right. If you have a tech company, then you need to raise $200 million in Silicon Valley, and that's the only way. We try to do that, but who's going to invest in, first of all, someone trying to compete against AT&T, and second of all, a couple that had just met? No. So we found out that that's not gonna be the way we're gonna go, and then we just took the long way in terms of marketing, and we actually never spent $1 on advertising to this day either.
Wow.
So we just built a good product, right? And make sure that you carve out your little market here and make a product that works really, really well for a few people rather than trying to make something that works for everyone out of the box, from day one at least.
I think that's brilliant. Peter, again, thanks for being on the show. If our audience wanted to find you or learn more about Telseo, where would they go?
So my own website, peterschroeder.com, has all my social media and email and all that stuff. And please do reach out. I love when I get actual emails rather than just canned sales mails all the time. So please do. And Telseo, Telzio.com. There's a free trial and a month free service and stuff like that. And go try it out because it's actually fun to play with. So at least you'll get a little entertainment if anything. That's
great. I do want to take a quick moment to thank our sponsors, Kincannon Business Consulting. Kincannon brings technology, systems, and expertise to your business to shorten the timeline for execution to a profitable future roadmap. Other consultancies bring a costly army, but Kincannon brings an efficient SWAT team. So if you're looking for a consultancy with a track record of success across many industries, reach out to Kincannon Business Consulting to set up a discussion. You can reach out to them by emailing them at inquire@kincannonbc.com. Peter, it's been a heck of a time. I enjoyed especially talking AI with you, learning more about your plane crash, even though you're crazy enough to get back on another plane, learning about Telseo. I think it's a great unified communications company, and I love that you carved out your own little niche, and amazing that you never spent $1 on any marketing. That's crazy. Really appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. All right, that's going to do it for today, everybody. We're going to talk some more emerging tech next time. Bye, everybody.